What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be making this Superman typographic poster using Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. Before we get started, please hit that like and subscribe button below. It'll keep more videos like this coming directly to you. Let's get started. Okay, so I've already pulled up the text that I'm going to use, and what I'm going to use is the shooting script for the movie Superman. I'm a huge Christopher Reeve Superman fan, so this is a poster I've been wanting to make for a long time. And I've already kind of read through this a little bit, and what I want to include is all the way up to the date right here to 26/6/77, and let's go all the way up to the top, and I'm gonna take out actually I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave everything there. All right, so I'm using Sublime Text Editor. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do Shift Command F, and I'm going to target everything that's a new line and hit replace with a single space. So that's going to go through everything that's in here, everything that's a brand new line, and replace it with a single space. Okay. The reason we're going to do that, I'll show you in just a minute. So I need to look for, okay, so there's only, there's 3 matches of 3 spaces. So I'm going to go take 3 spaces and clean them up, replace them with 1, and do the same thing for double spaces. Basically, I just want everything to have 1 space in between. It's gonna take a second to replace all of that because it's over 4,000 occurrences in this file. Okay, so now we're good. Let's do a double check. We've got plenty of single space, but no double spaces, so we're good. So I'm going to select all of this. So the first stop is going to be in Illustrator, and I am going to set up a rectangle for this type. And what I'm going to do is the poster is going to have 2-inch margins all the way around because I'm actually designing this as a 24 by 36 poster. Eventually, I think I will get it printed. So I just want to make sure that it has really nice margin around it, especially since the type is going to be very, very small. All right, so now that I've got my rectangle set up here, I'm going to go over to the type tool and click on the area type tool, and we're going to convert this to area type. Okay, and my text is already on my clipboard, so I'm going to just hit paste. It's going to take a second for all of that text to fill in, and I am going to use Metropolis Bold for the font. I think that is very fitting since we're working with Superman. And looks like I already have all of my settings here. I made one of these posters yesterday for a different thing. So let's make sure that everything is good. Basically, what I want to do is I want the type to fill up this text box exactly. Okay. And I still want it to be nice and tight. So, you know, because we're going to have that image showing through the type. So I want to make sure that it is that everything is nice and tight. Okay, so I'm gonna maybe enlarge the type by just a little bit, and we can also increase the leading a little bit. Basically, posters like this, especially when you're working with a lot of type, it's just a lot of tweaking. So a lot of it is very tedious, but you eventually get to a point where the type is all where it's all filled in exactly where you want it to be. So that's really what we're doing here, is just to make sure that we can get everything exactly fitting perfectly. Okay, perfect. So that is all the way down to that baseline. And my tracking here, I'm actually gonna adjust this just a little bit. So it was at 9. So 9 is actually fitting all the text, but 10 is pushing some of that text out of the box. So one of the tricks you can do is just kind of select around this general area and only increase the tracking a little bit from that point down. That way it gives you a little bit more room to play with. Maybe try 20. Okay, maybe 21. Okay, looks like 20 is going to be our number. Okay, and it still is, you know, the spacing in between the words may be out just a little bit, but that's totally fine. All right, so now that I've got all of the type inside of the box, really the rest of it is downhill from here. So I'm going to select all of this, and one of the things that I like to do is I like to add this wave effect to all of my typographic posters. And what it does really, it just kind of gives it a little bit more of a dynamic feel. It looks really cool, even without it, but adding this warping, this wave texture, really does seem to give it something extra. So usually I do like 25%. I think that is going to be just fine. When I do landscape ones, I tend to go probably around 35 to 50%, but it just depends on the actual size. All right, so now I'm going to select all of this, and I'm going to copy it. We're going to go into Photoshop. And since this is going to be the final print file, my dimensions for it, let's wait for the, this is a lot that it's got on the clipboard. So, okay, here we go. My dimensions for the final printed poster are going to be 24.25 and 36.25 and full resolution. So paste it as a smart object. That way, if you need to go back and edit it for any reason whatsoever, you can do that. So right now it's rendering the place document. And just to be on the safe side, hit the V key, Command A, and center horizontally and center vertically. Most of the time when it pastes it in there, it does center it for you, but I just like to be on the safe side. Okay, so as you can see, here is the type at 100% view. It's very, very small, but we've got the entire screenplay for Superman the movie. All right, so that is now in place in Photoshop. So I'm gonna go here to Chrome and grab this image that I've already pulled up. I love this image of Superman again, with the American flag behind him. So this is what this size ends up looking like at 24.25 by 36.25 at full resolution. However, this image is only going to be showing through the actual text itself, so we can enlarge this pretty much, as big as we want to. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so right now the text is on top of the Superman photo, but what we want to do is bring the photo to the front. Now select both of them, and then Option on my keyboard, click between them, and it does a clipping mask. Okay, so what we're doing here is we've got the Superman image in the background with with the entire screenplay of the movie. Okay, now sometimes, depending on the image, sometimes I'll stop right here. But what I'm seeing is some of these areas that are really, really bright, and I don't want those to quite fade into the background. So what I generally do here is sometimes I'll make the background black. That way, that's almost a fail-safe. But you can also see right here, especially in the dark areas, where we're totally losing all of that type. So what I generally like to do is just kind of bring it up a little bit, like kind of like a charcoal type of gray, like a near black, or bring the white down to something like, kind of like a mid-range gray or something like that. But I think that by looking at this, that the charcoal is probably going to work best for what we're doing. That way we still get all of that nice black type showing through, and none of it is really blending into the background. So there may be a couple of little hairy areas here, but you can still, for the most part, you can still see all of the type. Okay, it gets a little bit hairy, especially in these gray areas right here. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll just kind of add a little bit of color into those areas. So I just click on the image and maybe use my paintbrush tool and take it down to probably a 5% flow. You can kind of brighten it up, or you can darken it. I think I'll probably just make my brush a little bit smaller. And it's really just to kind of get into these areas that are, you know, that are gray. I think I might bring my flow up just a little bit. There we go. It's looking better. And you can do something similar. You know, sometimes I use the color dodge tool, or the burn tool. You know, the color burn tool. So you can use all kinds of different methods. You know, you could even select the color range of all of the mid-level tones. So you know, you could do something like that. There's really, you know, in Photoshop, there's never one way to do something. There are so many ways to do so many things. But it's really just to make sure that this area just kind of stays legible. And the thing is, you know, realistically, is anybody ever gonna sit here and read this entire thing? No. For the most part, you know, this is what really makes the statement. So you're totally fine. And even in that case, you could even make the argument that this makes the statement with just a solid white background. You know, some of these areas are getting a little bit lost, but I wouldn't say that they're getting lost to the point of not being able to see them as a whole. Okay, so I think what I might do is, seeing this, I think I might actually leave it with a white background. I think that might work best. Or, you know what, let's just, let me try this. Okay, absolutely not. Okay, so I think I'll just leave it as a white background. And this is totally optional. You can go in and you can add kind of like a paper overlay or something like that. If you want to give it a little bit of extra dimension, maybe something like this sketchbook paper. So what you do is you go to the top layer, paste it on top. I'm going to rotate it and then enlarge. And just depending on what you're working on, you can cycle through the blending modes and see what works best. But kind of the goal to it is, you know, is to make it look like it's printed on that type of paper. So it really just depends on what you're working with. Okay, that's cool. I like that. I think I might actually take it down by 50% or so that way you just see a little bit of the texture. And sometimes I'll go in and I'll add a grain layer. And what this does, especially if you're working with type that's a little bit larger than what I'm doing right now, you can add in a grain layer to kind of hide some of those artifacts there when you've enlarged your image. So it kind of makes it look a little bit more intentional. Looks like that bottom layer got moved a little bit, so I'll just move that back. And let me go up to 100% so you can, it may be difficult to see the difference here, but you know, just it's really, really subtle. I think it may be too subtle. So let's do maybe something like, you could do something like pen light and then just kind of back it off a little bit because those speckles are a little strong. I think 75% is good. So for the most part, you can still see that there's text actually there, but we are losing some of that text. But like I said earlier, you know, for something like this, it doesn't really matter too much. One thing you could do is go into the curves of this image. You know, like I said earlier, there's so many different things that you can go in and solve some of these issues with. You know, you can always pull this down. You can adjust this area right here to kind of make that text show through. Just, you know, just keep in mind that it's going to affect the rest of the image as well. But you know, you can go in and make make your own adjustments however you see fit. But I think this is really cool. I think that for the purposes of what I'm doing, if I get this printed off and maybe put it in my garage or something, I think that I would be perfectly happy with this as the finished product. So thanks a lot for watching along with me today. If you like this, please hit the like and subscribe button below. It'll keep more videos like this coming directly to you. Thanks a lot for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.